Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller TV series named American Horror Story, Season 8, Apocalypse. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The drama begins inside a high-end hair salon where a wealthy lady named Coco was getting her hair done by a hairstylist named Gallant. Coco also had an assistant named Mallory. The trio was chatting away when suddenly everyone in the salon received the same text message, an emergency alert warning of an imminent nuclear strike and instructing immediate evacuation, specifically stating that this was not a drill. After hearing this, Coco declared it to be nonsense, surely a prank. But then, her father video called her, screaming for her to run as a nuclear missile would hit in less than an hour. Their family had 4 spots reserved in a shelter, originally intended for the whole family. But now, since her mother, brother, and father were together somewhere else, they had resigned to their fate. He urged Coco to flee if she could. A car would take her to the airport. Coco was confused but still prepared to make a run for it. Meanwhile, the television started broadcasting the nuclear warning as well, making it all seem terrifyingly real. At that moment, Coco's boyfriend, Brock, received a call from her. She urged him to hurry to the airport to meet her, intending to take him along. Gallant rushed home to pick up his grandmother, and together with Mallory, they all made a mad dash for the airport. Now, there were 4 of them, occupying all the spots. Coco fretted over how Brock would fit in now. Right then, Brock called, stuck in traffic. Coco told him to ditch the car and run to the airport. A massive crowd was also heading their way. Realizing the impossibility of the situation, Coco told Brock maybe they should just part their ways and hung up the phone in haste. They boarded the plane swiftly, but unfortunately the pilot had been killed. The plane took off normally, leaving everyone aboard utterly dumbfounded. Not knowing where they were flying to now, Mallory decided to ask the pilot, only to find out there was no pilot left. Seconds later, the nuclear bombs indeed exploded. Not only their city, but locations all over the world were hit by nuclear strikes. The entire Earth was plunged into an apocalyptic nightmare. Apart from a few who managed to escape, there was a young man named Timothy celebrating his admission to a prestigious university when men in suits and soldiers burst in and forcibly took him away. Timothy was brought to a secret base where he met Emily, a young woman who had also been taken there by men in black. Both were confused, not understanding why they were captured. After the nuclear explosions, Emily and Timothy were taken to a shelter where government officials stated that there were 10 such shelters around the world, reserved for them and wealthy individuals who had bought tickets, likely referring to Coco and her group. It was obvious there was insider knowledge of the nuclear disaster. Emily and Timothy were left at a base, led by a person in a hazmat suit at the entrance. On their way in, they witnessed 2 people being executed for their errors. A woman, Miss Venable, welcomed them to Outpost Number 3, claiming she was the boss here. The shelter was originally a boys' school, which puzzled Timothy. Miss Venable thanked the Alliance, a group who anticipated such a disaster and converted the place into a refuge. Timothy asked about the Alliance, which Miss Venable explained was not the government or military, but a collective of the greatest human minds. However, it was clear that neither Timothy nor Emily really understood. Miss Venable told them that as members of a superior clan, they had their own private suites, indicating a hierarchical society within the shelter. The clan was high status and wore clothes of different colors, while the inferior clan, akin to worker ants, took care of menial tasks. There was one strict rule: no sexual activity was allowed. After taking a shower, Timothy noticed a 666 on the glass, which in religious contexts symbolizes the devil's evil. Coco and her group of 4 were also in the shelter, along with several unfamiliar faces, including a woman named Dinah, a former TV show host. At dinner, their meal was a single bite of jelly each, supposedly sufficient for daily nutrition, but clearly inadequate. Over time, Coco became dissatisfied, longing for a feast during the festive season, but Miss Venable slapped away the complaint, emphasizing they had only 18 months of food left. If the Alliance didn't resupply, they'd soon have nothing. That morning, an alarm had sounded for a breach at the base perimeter, which turned out to be just a pigeon. Still, they decided to check for contamination. Miss Venable's subordinate, Miss Mead, used a radiation detector on everyone. Gallant and another man were found to have excessive radiation levels. They underwent a harsh scrubbing in the cleaning room. Gallant was cleared and returned, but the other man still showed radiation and was executed. Miss Mead reported back to Miss Venable that there had been no contamination. It turns out the device had been tampered with by Miss Mead, who, along with Miss Venable, seemed to be playing a cruel game with the survivors. During the dinner on the following day, everyone was surprised to find that there was meat available, and they eagerly began to eat. It was only after they had eaten half of it and found finger bones that they realized the meat was from the man who had been executed the day before. Gallant's grandmother remarked that it doesn't matter what kind of meat it is. If it tastes good, that's enough. At that moment, everyone noticed that the song that had been on repeat for the past 2 weeks had finally changed. Gallant was particularly excited and started singing along, exclaiming that this is what music is all about. However, a year and a half later, the same song was still playing, and daily life for everyone resembled that of zombies, just going through the motions. Meanwhile, Timothy and Emily felt suffocated by their growing hormone affection for each other, but rules prevented them from going any further than holding hands and wrestling their tongues, which only added to their frustration. Then, suddenly, the perimeter alarm sounded. Something had breached the area. Upon going outside, they saw a carriage and a person alighted holding alliance documents, signaling the arrival of an important figure, Michael. Michael told Miss Venable that her base is quite impressive. The other 3 have been destroyed, and the remaining 3 won't last through the year. He reckoned that hers is on its way out too, and told her there is another facility with enough supplies to last a century. Miss Venable asked if Michael was there to take them to the shelter, and Michael explained that the Alliance had sent him to assess and choose only the valuable individuals to go. Those chosen would live, the rest would die. As Emily was preparing to sleep, suddenly many poisonous snakes appeared. Miss Mead saw this and cheerfully suggested they would have snake soup for dinner tonight. However, when they uncovered the pot at the banquet, the snakes wriggled out, which was odd since they had been chopped into segments and should have been dead. The people didn't take it seriously, assuming it was just another one of Miss Venable's twisted jokes. Michael had spoken about selecting valuable people for the new shelter, and Gallant was first for assessment. He openly admitted he was gay and complimented Michael by saying he's really handsome and he admired his muscles. But Michael promptly dismissed Gallant. Late one evening, a person dressed in black burst into Gallant's room. Mistaking the intruder for the handsome Michael, Gallant happily allowed the figure to have his smelly way with him. This distasteful incident was unexpectedly witnessed by his grandmother, who promptly reported it to Miss Mead. Meanwhile, Emily and Timothy took advantage of Michael's absence and, snooping through his notebook, stumbled upon an email he had just sent to the Alliance. The email revealed that Miss Venable had unilaterally implemented a no-sex rule, which came as a shock since the Alliance had no such policy. Unbeknownst to them, the person in black was eavesdropping from above, confirming that it must have been Michael who was in the black suit to perform a hormone yoga session with Gallant. Miss Mead then informed Miss Venable about Gallant's hormone yoga with the person in black, leading to Gallant being tied up and whipped. However, when Michael appeared, Gallant professed that despite the pain, he felt inward joy at the thought of being with Michael. To this, Michael retorted that he's not the person in black. Michael's intervention saved Gallant from being killed. Gallant later confronted his grandma, asking why she would betray her grandson. The grandma replied that she just can't stand to watch him lead such a twisted life. Timothy informed Emily that since the rule against sexual relations didn't exist, they were now free to be intimate. Finally, Timothy and Emily were able to wrestle their muscles rather than their tongues. On the other hand, Gallant was alone and feeling dejected when he turned around and saw the person in black again. Believing it was Michael, he grew angry, upset that the person wouldn't admit to the truth. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed the person in black to death. However, Michael then appeared from behind, leaving Gallant stunned. It wasn't Michael after all. Upon lifting the mask, to his horror, it was his own grandmother. This completely stunned Gallant. It turns out the first person in black had indeed been Michael, but this time it was his grandmother. The grandma was dressed as the person in black, possibly because she was bewitched by Michael's spell. Meanwhile, Timothy and Emily were caught in their fishy act. Emily exclaimed there was never a rule against sharing a bed. After her outburst, she was slapped by one of Miss Venable's tall henchmen, and the pair were taken away for punishment. Just as Timothy was about to be executed, he fought back, seized a gun, and shot Miss Mead. To everyone's astonishment, Miss Mead's wound revealed integrated circuits, showing that she was actually a robot. The scene shifts back to Michael, who continues his assessments. When Mallory was assessed, she said she always feels like there's another self inside her sexy body, trying to break out. Michael wanted to ask more, but Mallory took off running. Michael caught her, asking her not to run, when suddenly Mallory let out a goose roar that blew out all the lights. Michael looked on in terror and shouted back at Mallory. His shout was demonic, suggesting that his identity was quite special. Michael asked who she was, to which Mallory replied she didn't know either, before running away. Back to the present, Miss Venable and Miss Mead sat together chatting. Miss Mead said she's just a robot following a set of codes, yet she had memories. She remembered being a special agent, often killing people, though these are just fragmented snippets. Miss Venable asked if she had ever seen Michael. Miss Mead said she hadn't. They plotted together, considering the idea of killing everyone there, including Michael, and then finding the location of the shelter and Michael's computer to go there themselves. Miss Mead said she would always be loyal to her, because her programming was written to ensure loyalty to Miss Venable. At this time, the world had been devastated by nuclear warfare, but there were still some survivors, all of whom were on the brink of death. One day, a man was searching for a shelter. He was Coco's boyfriend. Due to radiation, Brock was losing his hair rapidly and suffering from sores. After killing a few other survivors, he saw a horse-drawn cart whizzing by and followed it. The cart was delivering goods to a shelter, and Brock was hiding beneath it. Inside the cart was a box filled with fresh apples. Miss Venable suggested that the apples might be a deceptive tactic by Michael to prove that the high-end shelter could grow fruit. Miss Mead then proposed they should use poisoned apples to kill them. Meanwhile, Brock killed the tall henchman and stealthily infiltrated Outpost Number 3. Miss Venable announced to everyone they would have a Halloween party tonight. Everyone was excited about celebrating the festival. In the evening, Coco made a dazzling entrance after being glammed up by Gallant. While she was showing off in the center stage, Miss Venable appeared and rudely told her to get lost. The crowd then started dancing, and someone approached Coco for a dance, leading her away to a secluded area. When the person removed their mask, it was revealed to be her boyfriend, Brock. Without hesitation, Brock stabbed Coco to death. At the final event of the party, everyone began eating apples, and inevitably, they all ended up dead. After the plan succeeded, Miss Venable and Miss Mead approached Michael. Miss Mead, holding a pistol, aimed to take Michael's life, but her arm slowly turned towards Miss Venable, and she fatally shot her instead. Miss Mead was shocked, questioning how it was possible, as her program was designed to protect Miss Venable, not to kill her. Michael explained that there was no mistake. Her commands had a hierarchy, and the top priority was to protect him. He revealed that he programmed her, and all this was part of his plan to use others to achieve his goal. Michael then disclosed that Miss Mead was a model he designed during his time at the Alliance, based on a very important woman to him, whose memories he hid inside Miss Mead's mind. Miss Mead realized that Michael was the little boy from the past, hinting at a deeper story between the two, which would be revealed later. The jukebox in the hall changed songs once again, suggesting that it automatically switches tracks whenever someone dies. Just then, 3 witches from the previous seasons entered the shelter. They were Fox, the principal of the Witch Academy, Myrtle, who was burned to death but somehow resurrected, and Madison, who was also killed but was now mysteriously revived. Fox entered and immediately said to look for their sisters. Soon after, the bodies of 3 people were laid on the ground by them. Fox revived them with a few breaths of her magical essence. The resurrected were Mallory, Coco, and Dinah. Without a doubt, they were all witches. Now, why the witches came here and who exactly is Michael remains to be seen. The scene shifts to explain the history between Miss Mead and Michael. Miss Mead is still a human at that time, and she adheres to Satanism, which is essentially the antithesis of Christianity. For some reason, she became Michael's godmother, even teaching him how to pray before eating. In religious contexts, this pentagram symbol shown on the wall represents Satan or the devil. Back to the present, Fox tells the 3 resurrected witches that she cast a hiding spell on them to protect their witch identities from being discovered. Even they would forget their own true nature. Mallory possesses both powerful and unique magic, while Dinah is a descendant of the voodoo queen Marie, and thus practices voodoo magic. At that moment, Michael appears and asks if they are planning to confront him. It seems a showdown between the witches and Michael is imminent, indicating that something big was among them. Time flashes back to 3 years earlier when the world had not yet been destroyed, and this outpost was an academy for warlocks, with Michael being one of the students. It turns out that there are not only witches, but also warlocks in this world. However, because warlocks are male and possess special parts that secrete testosterone, which suppresses magical powers, their magical abilities could never surpass those of witches. This has resulted in the witches ruling over the warlocks for a long time. At the time, a warlock tutor is in the middle of a lesson when he's summoned for a meeting. It turns out the headmaster has arrived with urgent news. They watch the surveillance footage, which shows Michael being interrogated before he suddenly slams a police officer against the wall and tortures him to death. The warlock, John, states that although Michael has magical powers, he is definitely not a warlock. However, the headmaster is adamant about recruiting him, suggesting that if Michael becomes the supreme warlock, he could elevate the warlocks above the witches. This would be an opportune moment for the warlocks to regain power. The Supreme Warlock, never before seen, is the male counterpart to the Supreme Witch and symbolizes the utmost strength. Michael was caught by the police because someone insulted his godmother, Miss Mead, and he retaliated. Afterward, the headmaster brought Michael back from the detention center and had him stay at the Warlock Academy to study. During Michael's assessments, he showed remarkable talent and even exceeded expectations in his tasks. For instance, during divination, he was only asked to predict the location of hidden books, but he went further and directly retrieved them through a mirror. Other skills like teleportation came to him naturally, and he could even summon the elements, although he once nearly froze the evaluators to death when he lost control while summoning a snowstorm. Afterwards, the evaluators were divided in their opinions. The headmaster led one group, believing Michael could become the Supreme Warlock. Another group, led by John, believed Michael's magic was too sinister to be fitting for the Supreme Warlock. In the end, the majority ruled, and it was decided that Michael should undergo the trial of the 7 spells, which would require contacting the Supreme Witch. The scene shifts to the Witch Academy, where everyone is attending a class. Mallory is one of the students, and the lesson is about changing the color of flowers. However, Mallory performs extraordinarily, transforming the petals into butterflies. This spell is unprecedented and unmatched. Madison mentions her lineage traces back to Salem, the site of the witch trials as shown in the previous season. Myrtle comes along to say the Warlocks have called for a grand meeting and they should prepare to leave. So they travel a long way to the Warlock School and enter negotiations from a position of strength. The Warlocks directly express their wish for Michael to undertake the trial of the 7 spells. Fox is taken aback. This trial is notoriously perilous. The last time it was conducted, it resulted in the death of the Swamp Witch. Feeling a responsibility to protect the witches, she refuses to allow another trial. Furthermore, she argues that the Warlocks could never become supreme. The headmaster counters that Fox is unsuitable to be the Supreme Witch and even mentions the death of her fat follower, Queenie, at the Cortez Hotel. Fox declares the Cortez Hotel as a gateway to hell. After sensing Queenie's absence, she had visited the Cortez Hotel, and there she saw Queenie's ghost playing poker with the hotel owner, which is shown in Season 5. Fox tries several times to take Queenie away from that hotel, but she fails. It's then Fox realizes that the hotel is more than haunted. It's a portal to darkness and hell, where all spells and magic are rendered useless. Meanwhile, Michael learned about the Cortez Hotel through divination and rushed over there. Surprisingly, he easily managed to remove Queenie from the location. This hinted that any haunted place is Satan's domain. At the end of Season 3, we know that some people come to hell for reincarnation after death. Although Madison died, her soul was trapped in a supermarket, unable to escape. Then Michael, with Queenie in tow, surprisingly appeared in Madison's cycle of reincarnation, showing his immense magical powers. In this way, Michael also brought back Madison, which means both Queenie and Madison were resurrected. Fox had a premonition of all this, and when she stepped out, she happened to run into Michael, who was returning with the two. After exchanging a look with Michael, Fox fainted and had a dream. She dreamed that the whole world was destroyed, and in the ruins, there seemed to be a pale-faced demon. Fox shared this dream with everyone, feeling it was a prophecy that was bound to happen. She also had a premonition that to survive, Michael must undergo the trial of the 7 spells. So it was agreed that during the blood moon in 2 weeks, Michael would undergo the trial of the 7 spells. If Michael succeeds in the trial of the 7 spells, Fox will retire, and Michael will take over as the Supreme Warlock. Back at the Witch Academy, Myrtle asked Fox why she allowed Michael to undergo the trial of the 7 spells. Fox said she felt her magical powers waning, a sign that a new Supreme Witch was about to emerge. At that moment, Coco was sent in by her father. Coco said she discovered an ability in herself to detect gluten in food, and that's how Coco and Mallory became friends. In the Warlock Academy, the teachers prayed for Michael. After the prayer ceremony, John seemed to see a pale demon's face on Michael's face and decided to leave. He always felt Michael was a dangerous presence, but while refueling on the road, he was killed by Miss Mead and set on fire. After dealing with John, Miss Mead met with Michael. It turned out Michael had ordered Miss Mead to kill. Miss Mead said he had more than just her supporting him. After her words, the headmaster appeared from the darkness, revealing that it was he who had informed Miss Mead of John's route. The headmaster blindly trusted Michael, and so Michael easily completed the first 6 tasks of the Trial of the 7 Spells, with only the last task of astral projection remaining. Fox declared, "For the 7th trial, she must increase the difficulty. He needs to bring the Swamp Witch back to her." The headmaster was stunned and retorted that astral projection is already the most difficult spell. What if Michael dies in there? But Michael insisted it's fine for him to rescue the Swamp Witch. After the chant, Michael entered the Swamp Witch's nightmare. We know the Swamp Witch didn't pass the 7 spells because she was trapped in a cycle of endlessly reviving frogs. However, suddenly Michael appeared, killed the lab teacher, and broke the Swamp Witch's cycle, truly resurrecting her. The witch coven was nearly complete, but as promised, Fox had to step aside and Michael became the true supreme warlock. The Swamp Witch warned Fox the students in the classroom seemed to be talking, and Michael could understand them. This means Michael can converse with demons. If he leads the witches, the world will be destroyed. Fox admitted Michael couldn't become the leader, and she let him pass the 7 spells for 2 reasons: to see just how powerful he is, and to gather her allies. Fox then instructed Madison to investigate Michael's background to ascertain his origins. At that moment, the Warlock tutor appeared, asking he would take the task too. Surprised, Fox asked if he was supporting Michael, but the Warlock tutor confessed he had a bad feeling too, so he wanted to investigate Michael. Fox agreed to join him in, saying he and Madison could keep each other company. She then handed the clues she had divined to Madison, which led back to the murder house from the first season. After that, Madison and the Warlock tutor quickly went to the murder house, pretending to be a couple, and purchased the building. Madison exclaimed that she can't wait to start a family here. The real estate agent asked if she knew that people had died here, but Madison responded they already knew it. Upon entering the house, they were astonished to find it as if someone still lived there, yet they found no ghosts. They cast spells to compel the ghosts to reveal themselves, and soon began to see the spirits of the dead. In one room, they accidentally came upon the house's new owner, Dr. Ben, treating his psychopathic patient, Tate. Tate lamented that Ben's daughter, Violet, still won't talk to him. Ben retorted that he got her mother pregnant and killed so many innocent people. Tate confessed that he had changed and didn't know why he did so many bad things before. While they conversed, Madison and the Warlock tutor materialized. Ben was startled, asking if they could see them, and they didn't plan to reveal themselves. Madison boasted that they could see them because they were witches. In a panic, Ben and Tate departed, allowing the two to feel free to look around. At that moment, a monster lunged at Madison. This monster was a deformed son of the former house owner, Constance. Suddenly, the medium appeared and rescued Madison. The medium said she's one of the few living people who can come and go from this place. As she spoke, Constance appeared with a cigarette dangling from her lips, declaring that this is her house. More ghosts started to appear one after another, like the housekeeper, who would argue with Constance every day. Madison asked the two about Michael's background. They initially refused to disclose anything, but Constance offered to tell them if they could make her annoying housekeeper disappear forever. The two then started digging in the yard. They first unearthed a body, but it wasn't the housekeeper's. It looked like another victim's. They continued digging and finally brought out the housekeeper's remains. The housekeeper was overjoyed, thanking them and saying she had been waiting for this day. The housekeeper asked them to bury her remains with her mother's. From the first season, we know that the housekeeper came to the hospital on Halloween and unplugged her mother's respirator. They finally helped the housekeeper escape her misery of being trapped in the house. The housekeeper was reunited with her mother, fulfilling her lifelong wish. Constance was then willing to tell Michael's story. It turns out that Michael was born from her daughter Vivian being raped by Tate, meaning Michael's father is Tate. Michael was raised by his grandmother, Constance. Michael was brutal from a young age, often killing small animals. After each death, Constance would dig a hole in the backyard and bury it. At first, the flowers planted on the graves seemed nice, but as they proliferated, they began to smell bloody. That's when the horrific event finally happened. Michael killed the family's nanny. The next day, something even more terrifying occurred. Michael aged 10 years overnight and even tried to kill Constance. She thought it was demonic possession and called a priest who was also killed. Constance eventually realized that this wasn't possession. It was the demon itself. In the end, Constance chose to kill herself in the murder house, so now she's also a ghost. While speaking, Constance was called away by her little daughter. Then, they sought out Vivian's husband, Dr. Ben, who continued the story. It turns out after Constance died, Michael cried bitterly over his grandmother's body, showing that he still had some humanity at that time. Ben, having witnessed everything, appeared with the intention of saving Michael as the child was born of his wife, making him somewhat of a father figure. During Michael's upbringing, he demonstrated exceptional talent and seemed to be on the path of goodness until one day he entered the room of his biological father, Tate, trying to connect with him. But Tate appeared and warned Michael not to touch his things. Michael said he's his dad and he just wanted to be like him. Tate replied he didn't have a son like him, who was too twisted. Even he couldn't create something as evil as Michael. From then on, Michael was disheartened and would torment the Dahlias when bored. That day, 2 new owners moved in, and Michael didn't hesitate to kill them, even using magic to destroy their souls. Ben finally realized that Michael was beyond saving and chose to give up. During their conversation, Vivian also appeared and said that from then on, crows would fly in the sky every day. One day, 3 individuals in black cloaks came to the door. These 3 were members of a satanic cult, opposed to Christianity, and among them was Miss Mead, Michael's godmother-to-be. They came following various omens and became convinced that Michael was the son of the devil. Michael joined the satanic cult under their persuasion, and at that moment, his shadow took the form of a demon. So Michael is a demon, not the offspring of any 2 individuals, but rather the masterpiece of the murder house. The murder house is the mouth of hell, and hence, Michael is the son of the devil. Vivian knew that if things continued this way, the world would be destroyed, so she prepared to assassinate his demonized son. But she nearly had her soul burnt away by Michael's magic. However, the psychopath Tate saved her life. Afterward, Michael disappeared. After the story, both Madison and the Warlock tutor sensed danger and decided to evacuate immediately, informing Fox about their investigation. As Madison was leaving, she told Violet that the bad things Tate did were not of his own volition, but rather the manipulation of the murder house's demon. Now, with the demon born in the form of Michael, Tate was now a good man. She urged Violet not to hold grudges anymore and to live a good life with Tate. And so, Violet and Tate reconciled, while Madison and the Warlock tutor hurried back to report to the Witch Academy. They had to deploy a strategy to deal with the evil Michael. The scene shifts to Dinah, who just finished performing a ritual for someone else. Dinah is a descendant of the voodoo queen Marie and is the current voodoo queen herself, thus practicing voodoo magic. Fox sought her out and pleaded with her to summon Papa Legba, wishing to harness the deity's power to confront the demon Michael. Meanwhile, Madison sought out a granny witch who attended the Witch Academy with Myrtle in their youth. The granny witch's ability is to read minds, the kind that doesn't require incantations or any preliminary rituals. Myrtle sought her out to discern the true intentions of the Warlocks. At this time, Dinah summoned Papa Legba. It should be noted that Dinah didn't offer herself to it, so she didn't gain immortality. Upon seeing Fox, Papa Legba knew that her purpose for summoning him was to confront the son of the devil, Michael. So he said he was merely the gatekeeper between the human world and the underworld, without the power to confront the son of the devil. Fox suggested he only needed to open the gates of the underworld and let Michael wander there for eternity. This meant something similar to those like Marie who, after death, were trapped in their own cycles of reincarnation. Such cycles are what Papa Legba refers to as the underworld or hell, and he has the ability to trap someone in a cycle of reincarnation. Papa Legba mentioned when the Supreme Witch summoned him last time it was for immortality. Although it wasn't successful, she gave him the best gift. Papa Legba's intention was clear. If they could give him the souls of all the members of the Witch Coven, he would help them. Naturally, Fox didn't agree, so no deal was reached. In the Witch Academy, Coco's magical power had increased. She could determine the calorie content of every food item with absolute precision, and every time she cast a spell, her eyes had to roll back comically. One day, she excitedly took a big bite of a cookie and choked. Mallory quickly made an incision on her neck with her fingertip and removed the cookie. With another stroke, the wound healed. This spell amazed everyone. They had never seen such a thing, and she didn't even utter a spell. Meanwhile, the Academy Principal Fox felt her health deteriorating. She mentioned Michael continued to rise while she kept declining. When a new Supreme Witch appears, the old one quickly fades. Madison suggested it might not be due to Michael's rise, but perhaps because a new Supreme Witch was emerging within their own coven, referring to Mallory. Myrtle, along with the Granny Witch, also visited the Warlock Academy and had dinner with the headmaster. Myrtle was all laughs and conversation, while the Granny Witch's face turned shades of green and white because she overheard the headmaster cursing her and Myrtle in his mind. This goes to show that mind reading can be quite an awkward skill. If one could read minds, they'd constantly hear others speaking ill of them. After the Warlocks left, Myrtle asked if the Granny Witch had heard anything critical. The Granny Witch revealed that they had killed a Warlock who attempted to resist Michael, a person named John. During the banquet, Fox told Mallory that she might be the Supreme Witch and encouraged her to practice her magic diligently to pass the trial of 7 spells as soon as possible. After the visit to the murder house, the Warlock tutor had completely sided with the Witch Coven. Fox declared her determination to protect the coven, revealing that she had resurrected Myrtle for this very purpose, having foreseen this day and thus disregarding past vows to revive Myrtle during these challenging times. The coven arrived at the place where John had been killed. Madison cast a spell to gather John's ashes. Then Mallory performed a resurrection spell, successfully bringing John back to life. John recounted the events of the night he was killed, saying that it was an old lady who had killed him, suggesting that Michael had a godmother-like figure backing him. They decided to eliminate this godmother as well. The scene changes. As Miss Mead was leaving after shopping, Coco prepared to strike up a conversation with her but didn't finish her sentence before Miss Mead shot her, saying she saw her following her a long time ago. However, unbeknownst to her, Coco was just a decoy. Another person promptly put a sack over Miss Mead's head and kidnapped her. At the same time, Fox and her people tied up the headmaster and a teacher. They were sentenced to death by Fox, and the one to ignite the fire was the resurrected John. The 3 were engulfed in flames. The next day, Michael arrived late, touched the remains, and felt the agony of Miss Mead's death. Fox appeared, attempting to rekindle a spark of goodness in Michael's heart. But Michael, having lost his closest ally, whispered to Fox that he would stop at nothing to revive Miss Mead and then destroy her witch coven. Michael's magic wasn't yet strong enough to resurrect the dead, so he went into a forest and drew a pentagram on the ground, the symbol of the devil, in an attempt to summon Satan to grant him power. 4 days later, Michael fainted from hunger. When he awoke, he saw a black sheep which he slaughtered and broke its horns, only for countless snakes to emerge. Confused, Michael wondered what Satan was trying to tell him. He stumbled into an anti-Christian church where he met a woman who was also a follower of Satan. The woman, sensing he had a story, took him home, fed him, and spoke of needing Satan's guidance to lead them into eternal darkness. Michael revealed he was the one they were looking for, the son of the devil. The woman, ready to kill Michael for what sounded like blasphemy to outsiders, but noticed the 666 mark behind his ear, a symbol of the devil, so she believed him. She worshipped him as the savior and introduced him to the anti-Christian church, where all the followers began to worship him and provide him with food and drink, and possibly a free hormone game. Impatient, the woman asked Michael when they would destroy the world and how. Michael replied that he didn't know and told her to get lost and let him eat first. Confused, the woman didn't know what to do. Michael suggested she Google it, then she would know their next mission. He then revealed that the only person who could advise him, his godmother Miss Mead, was dead. The woman then suggested that they simply create an android, Miss Mead. The next day, she drove Michael to a research center, explaining that the 2 scientists were also anti-Christians and may be able to help him. They were both IT fanatics and followers of Satanism. Their secretary, Miss Venable, informed the duo that the son of the devil had come for a visit. Initially, they chuckled, thinking Michael was an imposter, but when he revealed the mark of the devil, they still doubted him. Without a word, Michael incinerated a passerby with a mere thought, which convinced them that he truly was the son of Satan. Michael showed them a photo of Miss Mead and demanded her resurrection. The scientist nonchalantly replied that it was no big deal, asking if actual human vocalization and 3D heating were required. They began to construct a robot version of Miss Mead, turning her into an agent and implanting her with the memories Michael described. That's how Miss Robot Mead came into being. After the robot Mead was activated, Michael set out to eradicate the witch coven. The scientist was irritated, wondering when the son of devil would actually destroy the world. He remarked that the witch coven was as weak as chickens and not even worth exterminating. In the midst of this, Miss Venable came to announce the next week's alliance meeting and demanded a promotion, complaining that she had been with them since the start of their business and was still just a receptionist. Miss Venable cursed, calling the situation nonsense, and declared she was quitting. At that moment, the scientists suggested that perhaps they should be the ones to destroy the world. The scene shifts back to the Witch Academy. Mallory tirelessly practices her spells, but without any substantial progress. Fox comforts her, saying haste won't lead to success. Mallory replies that if Michael attacks the Academy now, they are doomed. Fox assures her that the Academy is protected by a spell she cast, which prevents malevolent spirits or negative forces from entering. At that moment, Dinah arrives at the Academy's entrance, performs a frenzied chicken dance followed by some magic, and quickly breaks Fox's protective spell. Michael, accompanied by the robot Mead, walks in to flex his android toy. It seems Dinah has betrayed them and did so intentionally. After Michael enters, he swiftly defeats most of the witch coven. Robot Mead detaches her arm, revealing a machine gun, and blows a witch's head off. Hearing the commotion, Fox realizes Michael has breached the Academy. Queenie hurriedly tries to use a voodoo doll skill on Robot Mead, but since she's a robot and only slightly damaged, no substantial harm is done. As a result, Robot Mead also killed Queenie, ending her greasy life. Dinah enters and asks Michael to keep his word. Michael assures her that he has helped renew her talk show in exchange for her to betray the witch coven. It turns out being a witch was just a hobby for Dinah, while being a show hostess is her dream. Michael prepares to kill Fox, but Fox, along with Myrtle and Mallory, have already fled for their shitty lives. Back at the base, Robot Mead consistently urges Michael to destroy the world, not just focus on killing witches. Her words, actually typed by the two mad scientists and then spoken by Robot Mead, are prompting Michael to cause the apocalypse. They mock him in the process, calling him a poor excuse for the son of the devil, lacking a proper plan. Robot Mead argues that destroying the world doesn't require magic and suggests that if the world is destroyed, the witches will die too. Michael agrees, deciding to destroy the world first, exasperated by being manipulated by the two mad scientists. However, Michael then suggests running for president of the United States, leaving them speechless. Michael admits it's his first time as the son of the devil and he doesn't know what to do. One of them can't stand it any longer and suggests Robot Mead persuade Michael to return to the research center. Once back at the center, the scientist presents a list of 100 influential people from around the world. Michael asks what it is, and he reveals it's the Alliance, the most powerful organization in the world, consisting of anti-Christian members who would never admit to it. The list must be destroyed after reading. The two mad scientists are also members of the Alliance, which controls money, the military, and most importantly, nuclear weapons. They are all devout followers of Satan, and at Michael's command, the world could be destroyed in an instant. Michael likes the sound of that. The few remaining witches fled to the Swamp Witch's house. The Swamp Witch had gone to a concert and wasn't there when Fox attempted astral projection to revive the dead witches. The effort was futile. As she revived one, another would vanish. Upon returning, she stated that she couldn't sense their spirits. They couldn't be resurrected. Madison seemed to remember something important, mentioning that when Michael kills someone, he can erase their souls. Fox, realizing the gravity of this information, slapped Madison for not mentioning it sooner, lamenting that it was too late for anything to be done now. Unless they could turn back time, the dead witches couldn't be saved. Myrtle then produced an ancient tome of witchcraft that detailed a powerful and ancient spell, time reversal. However, no witch had ever been confirmed to possess such power. Fox noted that this spell could change the past, and among them, only Mallory had the potential to perform it. Mallory declared she would do anything to save her sisters. Myrtle warned that rumors said all who attempted this spell had perished, but Mallory was still willing to take the risk. Myrtle recounted the story of 1918 Russia, where the Tsar and his entire family were shot. The Tsar's youngest daughter, Anastasia, a witch herself, had attempted to cast a spell to save her father and two sisters. Although she managed to reverse time once, she ultimately couldn't save her family, and they were all shot, including her. After Mallory submerged herself in water and chanted the spell, she indeed traveled back to Russia in 1918. She told Anastasia she was there to save her, and together they cast the spell. The combined power of the two witches allowed time to reverse several times, but only by 1 or 2 seconds, insufficient to alter the course of events. In the end, they couldn't save Anastasia. Despite Mallory's failure, it proved the time reversal spell truly exists. Fox and Myrtle decided to return to the Warlock Academy to gather some who might try to resist Michael. However, they found none. Every Warlock had been slain. The two mad scientists summoned their assistant, Miss Venable, deciding to put her in charge of a refuge. She was thrilled by this, finally having authority. The scientists then informed her about the Alliance and the impending doom of the world. To preserve the seeds of anti-Christianity, they had established 10 outposts and selected certain individuals to be distributed among them. Miss Venable was to manage outpost number 3. Michael held a rally for the Alliance members, promising that after the world's destruction, their families could enter the outposts. However, each person was required to contribute $100 million. In the year or two before the apocalypse, the two mad scientists were discussing personnel assignments. They arranged for themselves to be in outpost number 2. The scientists said that Lord Michael intended to place Robot Meade in outpost number 3 and planned to temporarily seal its memory. His partner agreed to let him decide, since he was the leader after all. At that moment, Myrtle entered, cast a forceful spell on the two scientists, and demanded to know the location of outpost number 3. The scientist revealed it was at the Warlock Academy. Myrtle then altered the outpost's roster, forcibly including Coco, Mallory, and Dinah, as money was no object. Coco's father was wealthy. After this, Fox cast a protective spell on Coco and Mallory and sealed their memories. The goal was to prevent their witch identities from being detected by Michael. The scene shifts to Coco taking Mallory to the hair salon for a new hairstyle. At this time, both Coco and Mallory have new memories and have forgotten their witch identities. Madison, who played the role of the taxi driver, delivered them to the salon. Turning her head, she saw an advertisement for Dinah's show and realized that she was a traitor. At the salon, Coco met her boyfriend, Brock. We know that Coco eventually married him, indicating that they lived under hidden identities for a long time. This also explains why they had sufficient reason to enter the outpost. Madison returned to inform them that Dinah might be a traitor, saying that Dinah could have her own TV show because she had sold her soul to the devil. Myrtle decided to execute her immediately by fire. Fox disagreed, stating that burning her now might alert Michael to their plans. Moreover, Dinah was under Fox's spell, and with her level of magic, Dinah couldn't break it. She suggested letting her continue hosting her show for now, vowing to make her pay for her debts with her blood later. And then the world was destroyed just like that, as shown at the beginning. The witches hid in the swamp and managed to survive. They didn't know how long they had been in the mud, perhaps a year or two. Later, the three of them arrived at outpost number 3, and the story finally concluded its flashback sequence. The story returns to when Fox enters the outpost and revives the three of them. It's at that moment when Michael appears to flex once again his android toy, Robot Meade, and the impending battle between good and evil is about to begin. Dinah said she just wanted to host her show, not being a fighting witch. Then, the former voodoo Queen Marie appeared and told Dinah to get lost with her smelly bullshit, saying that the witch coven needed her instead. It turns out that Fox's soul had left her body and entered Marie's cycle of reincarnation to rescue Marie. Papa Legba wasn't pleased, of course. As a trade, Fox promised to give Dinah's soul to Papa Legba. Without hesitation, Marie killed Dinah. Without further ado, Fox then cast a spell that obliterated Robot Meade, ending her android life. She then dealt with the two outsiders. The Witch Coven formally declared war on Michael. Madison picked up the arm that had fallen from Robot Meade and with a machine gun, sprayed bullets at Michael. Of course, this wasn't enough to kill Michael, it was just buying time. Fox hurriedly took Mallory to find a pool to reverse time. Amidst this tense moment, Coco's boyfriend Brock leaped out and stabbed Mallory in the stomach. Myrtle exclaimed why and where that idiot came from. He replied he did so because they wouldn't let him on the plane. In a rage, Myrtle burned Brock to ashes. Just then, Michael had recovered, grabbed Madison and exploded her tofu head like a toy. They quickly moved everyone before Mallory died. Marie created a wall of air with her magic, but it was useless. During the process, Michael managed to piece right through Marie's hairy chest. Coco stabbed Michael from behind, but Michael bit into Marie's heart and with a snap of his fingers sent Coco straight to meet Satan. Now, only 3 witches remained. As Mallory was on the brink of death, Fox made a decision. She telekinetically grabbed the dagger from Michael's hand and stabbed herself in the heart. Based on the rule, she intended to use her own death to bring about the next Supreme Witch. At the same time, Mallory's power began to flow in ceaselessly. The time reversal ability was activated, bringing them back to the year 2015. At that point in time, Michael had just killed the priest Constance had found for him. Because of that, Constance had scolded him, infuriating him to the point of stepping out for a walk. Michael, still with a conscience at that time, was hit by a car while walking on the road. The driver was none other than Mallory, who ran over him not once but 3 times. Michael, seeing his life slipping away, urgently had his grandma Constance bring him into the murder house, saying that this way he could be with his grandmother even in death. But Constance told him to dream on, and so Michael died on the street. As a result, everything that followed never happened. The world didn't end. Myrtle and Madison weren't resurrected, the witch coven wasn't destroyed, and the swamp witch was still trapped in a nightmare, cutting frogs. One day, Queenie excitedly talked about going to the Cortez Hotel for fun. Mallory immediately advised against it, saying it wasn't a fun place at all. Heeding the advice, Queenie decided to stay somewhere else. Thus, Queenie didn't die her greasy life in this timeline. It seemed that only Mallory and Papa Legba retained their memories of the past. One day, Papa Legba sent his assistant to the Witch Academy to resurrect Madison and bring her over. Papa Legba, knowing everything that had happened, saved Madison from her nightmare as a way of repaying the witch coven. Time quickly moved on to the year 2020. In a twist of fate, Timothy and Emily met and quickly fell in love, later having a boy. One day upon returning home, they found many crows flying overhead and their nanny dead inside the house, killed by their own child. It seemed that the child of the devil was about to reappear in the world. Now it made sense why, during the end of the world, Timothy and Emily were taken by men in suits to Outpost Number 3 and enjoyed private suites. It was because they carried a certain demonic gene, a revolutionary ember intentionally preserved by the anti-Christian church. However, the reason for this remained unknown. Additionally, as shown in the first episode, Timothy and Emily sneakily entered Michael's room and looked at his computer, an allusion to the biblical story of Adam and Eve being tempted by the devil to eat the forbidden fruit. The presence of a serpent in Emily's room also confirmed this point. At this moment, the anti-Christian church trio also paid a visit, suggesting that the witch coven was about to face another great battle. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.